Hello everyone, and welcome to the third installment of our December holiday baking series, hosted by Hannah and myself from the Barkman Branch Library. Now, you've seen me make my coconut snowballs, which I think came out pretty good, and now you've seen Hannah's gingerbread recipe. Today, in this third installment, we're going to be making our holly wreaths. This recipe is even simpler than the coconut snowball recipe. It only calls for 4 ingredients, so we're going to need 20 ounces of white chocolate, 1 teaspoon of green liquid food coloring, 5 cups of cornflake cereal, and 3 tablespoons of cinnamon red hot candies. Now, I had to do a couple of things different from what the recipe in the book says. For one thing, I couldn't find red hot brand candies, so I just bought some hot tamales instead, cut those in half, and I'm going to use those for the holly berries. I also have some fun holiday sprinkles that I have, so I'm going to be decorating my holly wreaths with a mix of the hot tamales and those fun holiday sprinkles instead. The other thing is, I actually tried to do this recipe after I did the coconut snowball recipe, and it didn't go quite according to plan. When I added the green food coloring into the melted white chocolate, the white chocolate seized up on me. So instead of being a formable melted white chocolate ball that I could mix with my cornflakes and form into wreaths, it just kind of clumped together. It wouldn't form anything. It just kind of became a big mess. So just be aware of that. A couple of things you could check if that happens to you is you can make sure that the heat on your double boiler is really low. I'm going to try and keep mine between like low 1 and 2. Our settings go up to 9. I'm going to try and keep it, I'm going to warm it up real fast, and then I'm going to keep it on low the whole time and see if that works instead. The other thing I'm going to do is, instead of using the full 20 ounces of chocolate and 5 cups of cornflake cereal at a time, which is what I did last time, I'm going to try and keep the portions really small. That way, if I mess it up, I didn't mess up my whole batch. And it also gives me a chance to try and troubleshoot if I have the same problem with the white chocolate again today. So it'll be kind of an experiment. I'm kind of looking forward to it. So instead of doing the full batches, I'm going to start with about 1 cup of the cornflakes, and then I'll crush those, and I'll do about half of the bag of chocolate chips. Each bag of white chocolate, I think, is 11 ounces, so that should be it should roughly even out. Also, instead of using a full teaspoon, just plopping the food coloring in there, I'm only going to do like a drop at a time. And so that way, hopefully, if it starts to seize up, I can stop adding the food coloring and still be able to form the wreaths. I think this will be a really fun recipe. I think getting to decorate the wreaths at the end is going to be great, so long as I can get the food coloring and the white chocolate to cooperate with me. So without further ado, let's get started. So I'm just going to measure out a little bit over a cup of cornflakes. And then I'm going to do maybe half of one of the bags of chocolate and see how that goes. Okay, now that the water is gently simmering, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to try and add just half of this bag, so maybe like to there. That looks to be about half. I'm going to give this a try. And I've just got my heat between 1 and 2, so it's pretty low. So you shouldn't need it to be medium or high in order to be able to melt the chocolate, because it's already melting. Okay, I've melted it till it's become smooth, so let's go ahead and try and add a little bit of food coloring. Rather than measure it out this time, I'm just going to put a little tiny bit in at a time. Okay, let's go ahead and add the cornflakes and see what happens. That's looking about what I expected it to look like. It's not as green as it could be, but I think it's green enough to get the point across. So let's go ahead and try and make a couple wreaths out of it and see what happens. Now the book calls for heaping tablespoon-sized mounds. So I'm going to take my tablespoon scoop and make sure it goes above. Okay, now that the wreaths are on the cookie sheet, I'm going to take an end of my chopstick. I'm just going to dip it in the water that the double boiler was boiling in because that water is not very hot. The book says dip the end in warm water. And then we're going to make little holes in the center of our wreaths so that they look more like wreaths and less like green mounds. Before these cool down too much, I'm going to try and decorate them. I have some fun holiday winter sprinkles I can put on there. I also bought some hot tamales to cut in half because I couldn't find red hots in two of the places that I looked. So I just went with hot tamales and I'm going to cut them in half and then stick them on. And they're going to be the holly berries. So now that I've successfully made 4 wreaths, I'm going to try and repeat the process again, just so I have some more to eat than just 4. decorated and my wreaths are formed, the instructions say to just place them in the refrigerator until they're cool and firm. Because we're reforming the chocolate essentially, I don't think it will take too long, but I'll check it again in maybe 30 minutes and see what we're dealing with. Okay, so now that my cookies have been sitting in the refrigerator for a little while, they're looking a little more firm. I was able to pull them off of the wax paper without any problems. So this is what my first batch ended up looking like. And you can see a pretty big difference in the consistency between the first batch and the second batch. I don't know if that's because I added a little more food coloring so they firmed up a little better, or if it had to do with how crushed the cornflakes were, but you can definitely see these are a little darker. These would be the second batch, whereas these other ones are the first batch. But I'm sure they'll both taste great either way. Let's take a bite. Something else that could have led to the difference in texture between the two batches was the ratio of chocolate to cornflakes. So maybe I had more cornflakes in this batch, and that's why they came out looking a little clumpier than the other batch. But I tried one. I think they taste great. I loved getting to decorate them. And so I hope if you try this recipe that you'll share your photos with me of how you decorated them. I think it's really fun. Kind of like gingerbread men, but holly wreaths instead. I hope you've been enjoying this holiday series. We have one more video for you. It's scheduled to go out, I think it's December 31st, so I know Hannah's got a fun recipe lined up for New Year's Eve for you all. Thank you for all of your questions and comments in our Facebook group. Once again, that's linked to the Barkman Facebook page. So if you're interested in joining that, we'd love to have you, and we'd love to see all of your fun holiday recipes. I hope you've been enjoying all of these holiday treats. I hope your December is going well and that you're all staying safe and warm. And I hope you all have a great week. Bye!